Brother Sayyid Ashraf, member of the Board of Trustees, is here with us. ICNA, which supported us, Dr. Zaid Bukhari, he will not be here because his wife had a very unfortunate situation that came up in the morning, but he had sent his message to us. And we have here with us Andrea Barron, who is the representative for the Washington area Jews for Jewish-Muslim Understanding. And we also have Charles Stevenson from GeoTrees, who is also part of the Interfaith community in the Reston area. So without any further ado, I would like to call Mr. Gaddafi Ismail, the president, who have put in so much work along with Misley and so many others. I don't want to name everybody because it's going to be a lot of time going on for that. So Gaddafi, please.
Thank you, Rizwan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you to each and every one of you for your presence and time here with us today. We Sri Lankans United are a bipartisan group of US citizens domiciled in the DMV region, representing people of all religions, races and ethnicities in the land of our origin. We are distressed to learn about the unfortunate reports from Sri Lanka on the unfair and undignified treatment of the minorities in Sri Lanka by depriving their COVID-19 victims of their burial rights in accordance with their religious beliefs. This matter is most crucial to Muslims, Christians, and even to some sections of the Hindu and Buddhist communities living in Sri Lanka. We believe that every human being has a fundamental right to be afforded their last rites in accordance with their religious beliefs and wishes, whether it's a burial or a cremation. COVID-19, as we all know, has been a test for all citizens. As deaths due to the pandemic are increasing at an alarming rate across the globe, we understand the need for a range of steps to combat the pandemic, grounded in known science. Unfortunately, in the guise of fighting this deadly pandemic, racist factions of the Sri Lankan government are mostly inhumanly oppressing the religious minority. Human dignity and last rights of the Muslim and Christian communities are being violated and have been ignored by the Sri Lankan government's ill-advised decision to mandatorily cremate all those dying of COVID-19. The only reason the government offers for this decision is that the burial of COVID-19 victims will somehow result in the virus contaminating the sources of the groundwater supply of the country and thereby further spreading the virus. This is an unfounded claim, not validating any scientific fact or reasoning, and is absolutely baseless according to expert virologists who have weighed in on this issue. Additionally, there have been reports of Muslims dying of other causes having been falsely identified as dying of COVID-19 and being cremated. This is evident by the fact that the Muslim population in Sri Lanka represents only 9.5% and yet consists of 70% of the total deaths due to COVID-19. This situation is causing much distress and anxiety to the Muslim community, in particular as the proper handling of the dead body and a prompt, dignified burial with all religious rites is crucial and the utmost importance in their last journey. In addition to the fear of the contracting the disease, spreading and dying of the virus, they now face the utmost fear of being cremated and not being able to bury their loved ones with dignity. This is indeed a very sad state of affairs. Sri Lanka is one of the only two countries, other being China, that has made cremation mandatory for the COVID-19 fatalities. Guidelines by the World Health Organization clearly, categorically state burial of COVID-19 victims to be absolutely safe. Sri Lankan Muslims and other multicultural activist groups have reached out to all local and international organizations in search of relief from this oppression. Even pressure from international human rights organizations such as the United Nations Commission on Human Rights and Amnesty International came to no avail. Additionally, the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka has dismissed all fundamental rights challenges from the outset to the directive and mandatory cremation, leaving those affected with no legal recourse. Due to continuous pressure from civil organizations, on December 24th, the Health Ministry appointed a panel of virologists, microbiologists, and immunologists to provide their expert opinion on the safe disposal of human remains of COVID-19 infected people. In its recommendations, the expert panel stated that the viruses cannot be replicated in the body once an infected person dies, and the remaining virus in the body dies over a period of time with the death of a person, as there is no more living cells. Also, there has been no evidence of transmission through water contamination from the burial. In their 4-page report, the expert panel also provided further recommendations for the disposal of the body of the health facility, mortuary, to the cremation or the burial site, and the participation of family members and religious dignitaries with strict guidelines. The report was handed to the Health Ministry on Thursday, the 30th December, but there have been no indication of further development. We request the Sri Lankan President and the Health Minister to act on the recommendations of the expert panel and demonstrate to the world that their decisions are based on scientific evidence and not political and racial motivation. Sri Lankans domiciles across the globe have joined hands to raise awareness and appeal to their lawmakers to apply pressure on the Sri Lankan government to immediately stop this oppression and treat their minorities with dignity. To this date, in addition to our members personally reaching out to several senators and officials, we organized a car rally today and a picketing at the Eclipse opposite the White House. We will be grateful for your support in highlighting the plight of these unfortunate people to our lawmakers, diplomatic corps, and the people of USA, with a view to raise awareness and to bring pressure on the Sri Lankan government to recognize the freedom of religious belief and their minorities. In the absence of any compelling public interest to the contrary, and to make immediate remedial measures to stop this oppression and treat their minorities with dignity. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we are for a united Sri Lanka. We do not want our loved ones to live in fear in our own motherland. We want all Sri Lankans to live in harmony. Thank you. Jazakallah.
Thank you. That was for media purposes. The name is spelled Mohamed, and the last name Gaddafi, Gaddafi. I would like to call Brother Syed Ashraf from the Adams Center, the member of the Board of Trustees.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you all for being here. My name is Syed Ashraf. It's spelled as S-Y-E-D, Syed, A-S-H-R-A-F, Ashraf. I'm a member of Board of Trustees for Adams, as well as the co-chair for their Adams Civic Engagement Group. Adams is the second largest mosque in USA, with more than 11 branches and satellites across Virginia and the DMV area. We have been working on the religious freedom and the interfaith issues, working with the diverse faith communities for more than 25 years. Adams stands for human rights, peace, religious freedom, and justice for all. We have been working for the religious freedom of the minority communities within the Muslim majority countries. And also, we have worked for the minority rights of the other communities across the world.
Only few left over the papers. So
We call upon the Sri Lankan government to uphold the religious freedom and respect the basic human dignity by allowing the burial of the COVID-19 victims from the Christian and the Muslim minority communities as per their religious conviction, and reject this policy of forced cremation that is the egregious violation of the religious freedom. As per the guidelines from the World Health Organization, there is no harm to the public health if people, as per their religious belief, bury the COVID victims. The United Nations coordinator for the Sri Lanka, other religious United Nations organization, and Amnesty International all have called on the Sri Lankan government to respect the religious freedom and provide the families to perform the last rites of their loved one as per their faith tradition. So we urge again the Sri Lankan government to adhere to these humanitarian calls immediately and revert back this repressive policy of forced cremation. Thank you all.
Thank you. I call upon Andrea Barron of the Washington area Jews for Muslims and Jewish understanding, or Jewish and Muslim understanding, either way. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrea Barron, that's B like boy, A-R-R-O-N, from Camp Springs, Maryland. And I'm here today representing Washington area Jews for Jewish Muslim Understanding, a small group that my friend Judith Belchuk and I founded shortly after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Our goal was to support Muslims who were being maligned and attacked by extremist bigots in the United States who wanted to label all Muslims as terrorists. Jews are a small religious minority in the United States, like Muslims. We have been targeted by people following the dominant religion in countries for centuries, including the United States. During the 4 years of the Trump administration, in fact, we saw a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic attacks carried out by white nationalists, including the attack in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in October 2018. 11 Jews were slaughtered in the Tree of Life synagogue by Robert Bowers, a white nationalist. It was the worst anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. For this reason, most American Jews are sympathetic to religious and ethnic minorities, not only in the United States, but all over the world. I was horrified to hear that the government of Sri Lanka has made it illegal for Muslims and Christians to bury their relatives who died of COVID-19 in dignity and is forcing them to be cremated. It appears that the Sri Lankan government has concocted a ridiculous reason for outlawing burials, claiming that burying COVID victims will contaminate the country's water. This is as ridiculous as saying that COVID does not exist, that people should inject bleach into their bodies to clean their lungs, or any number of outlandish claims made by governments all over the world during the COVID crisis to increase their power and attack minorities. Sri Lanka should immediately end this mandatory cremation policy. The government knows that Muslims are prohibited from cremating their dead, which is why they may have come up with this unfair, unjust, and ridiculous policy. But Christians and people from other religions may also want to bury their relatives who have died of COVID. The Sri Lankan government should immediately rescind this law. Mandatory cremation must stop immediately. It's a violation of human rights, and it exposes the government of Sri Lanka as deliberately targeting religious minorities. How would the Sri Lankan government like it if the United States or other countries with Buddhist minorities outlawed the cremation of COVID victims, making up some outrageous law saying that the ashes from cremation would contaminate the air, so all Buddhists would be forbidden from cremating their dead? Stop mandatory cremation, Sri Lanka.
Thank you. Before I introduce Charles, I would like to say that ICNA, which is one of the most dynamic and largest Muslim organization in the United States in North America, with well over 500,000 members, have condemned this act of atrocity in Sri Lanka. And in their statement, Dr. Bukhari has requested me to say, because his wife fell ill and he couldn't be here personally, ICNA Council for Social Justice strongly condemns the forced cremation by Sri Lankan government of the COVID-19 victims, burning Christians and Muslims. Sorry. So basically, forced cremation marginalizes our religious freedom, and this is an act of a violation of international human dignity and international laws. So this condemnation came from ICNA and is going to be on their website as well. I would like to introduce now Charles Stevenson from Geotree and one of the Interfaith leaders in the community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As he said, my name is Charles Stevenson, and I am from the Catholic community, but I'm also an interfaith member of a Jewish and of a Muslim congregation. I'm an interfaith member of Adams and I'm their civic engagement team. It's no secret that every man, woman, and child on the planet today is confronted by a very serious threat, a very serious crisis, perhaps the most serious one we've had in a century, at least since World War II. And that crisis, of course, is first of all the COVID epidemic, and secondly, our tendency to respond and react fearfully and irrationally in the face of this epidemic. When we are in grave crisis, we often act in ways which are going to perpetuate our problems, increase our crisis, rather than resolve them, particularly when we become very insecure. We think we're making ourselves secure and in control, but we are undermining ourselves and those around us. This is true if we were individuals, families, communities, or governments and nations. I believe that this is what's happening particularly in Sri Lanka. The government of Sri Lanka is trying to make itself more secure, even at the risk of destabilizing the state. If you want to have security, you have to have harmony and respect across the different people in your community, the willingness to sit down and listen and connect with them. And so we have the crisis, but we also have a real opportunity and a real chance to move on. A crisis like this shows us our weak points, and we can have more empathy and respect for one another in our weaknesses, and thereby claim a new level of knowledge and of strength that we haven't known that we have had before. Reversing this decision is something the government can do to accelerate and to make the country more secure, because it is more unified and more respectful. If I could, I would appeal to the Sri Lankan government, rescind this order, restore the respect for religious rights of your people, and that way you will not make your country more insecure, you will make it more secure and safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. That basically concludes our press conference. The press release is on the Sri Lankans United Facebook page. On behalf of the press, if they want to get more information on this, they could reach out to the Sri Lankan United Facebook page. Am I right, Ms. Leader? It says Sri Lankans United. Sri Lankans United, yes. Facebook page. And also you can contact me at 301-366-1004 if you need any further information. Thank you. May God bless you.